Hey everyone. Last week, as I shared with you on some spiritual development or stages of spiritual development by a friend of mine, Kyle, who was shared that with his brother Kevin, who shared it with me. And so I told you last week that I was hoping that Kyle could join us, and so he did, but it's via Zoom, and I hope that you'll find this beneficial as we talk about that disciple making and our roles as a church on what that looks like in that disciple making. This will be a continuation series, and I pray that you will found this time a blessing. And I pray that you will be active in that disciple making as God has called us to be. Thank you all, and here we go. So let's talk about that Great Commission. Let's go back to that.
Okay.
And where Jesus, you just step my listeners and viewers through where you're coming from the Great Commission, where some may know what that is and some may not. So step us through that.
Okay. So Matthew 28, 18 through 20, Jesus is about to ascend to the right hand of the throne of God. And before he does, he calls the 11 remaining apostles to him and says, I want you to walk out into the world and I want you to make a difference in the name of my Father. And I want you to do that by everybody that you come in contact with. I want you to make disciples of those folks, and then I want you to baptize those disciples, and then I want you to continue to teach those disciples, continue to disciple disciples,
Okay.
never forgetting that I'm with you every step of the way and that the kingdom of God is forcefully advancing on the face of the earth.
So when you were going back in your growing up years and you were first introduced to this Great Commission of go into all the world, or go ye therefore, I think was the way it was written when I was a kid. I don't know if it was read that way to you, but did that give you a sense of fear a little bit that, wait, I have to go into the world?
Just the opposite for me, Gene. I wanted to do mission work.
Okay.
And so, that's kind of where my head and my heart was. I was excited to go out into the world.
Okay.
It was actually revolutionary for me when I heard someone say for the first time that the emphasis in the Great Commission was not going into the world; it was making disciples.
Right. Right.
I guess I had that twisted in my own mind.
Well, I think many of us Christians in the church family have always stuck on that word go as the command.
Yeah.
In reality, the command is what? Make disciples. And then from there, what that looks like.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So your world at that time, were you able to go out into the mission field as you?
Right out of high school, I went into the AIM program.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Adventures in Missions, and that
Sure.
was the goal, to give my life to mission work.
Okay.
I talked one of my really good friends years later into leaving New York City, and then talked my buffoon of a brother into quitting his job as a youth minister to go to school, and then we were all going to go together.
Okay.
And my wife and I wound up having a baby when it was time to go, and it wasn't right for us. So, like I said, I never intended to be in a small town rural church setting for 20 years, but here I am.
So here's your world now. I mean,
Yeah.
where you had a mindset of missions, God says, no, I need you here because from what we talked about earlier, you got a demographic of people who did not grow up in the church. So
Right.
So do they understand what their world looks like?
I think so.
Okay.
Early on, the Tri-County Church was full of drug addicts and alcoholics who were active in their addiction.
Okay.
And it was unbelievable to me, Gene, how there was a network among those folks.
Oh, wow. Okay.
They knew one another well. I guess having been in a lot of ways relegated to the margins of society, they'd kind of connected with one another.
Okay.
And you get in with one family, and that would lead to another family, which would lead to another family. And so they were very serious about sharing the good news that they had found in Jesus with their world.
Okay. So let's where I want to go. Okay. So you're making disciples. So what's your initial contact look like? Maybe for you, and then for someone who's who's just now coming into the picture going, oh, that's what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah. I think you've got to be really intentional about it.
Okay.
Um, and I'll tell you what we have done here. We have set aside our Wednesday nights um, as disciple making nights.
Okay.
That's how we build what we do together on Wednesday nights.
Okay.
We share a meal together, and that is with the idea it's a simple meal, and the idea is that we're just doing it to create a comfort level and to
Sure.
begin some conversation. And then I teach something from the Gospels Wednesday night in and Wednesday night out. We
Okay.
will not leave the Gospels. I may make mention to another text, but primarily we're in Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John every
Okay.
Wednesday night. And
Okay.
the goal really is just to introduce people to Jesus that
Okay.
way,
Okay.
in a non-threatening, relaxed, casual atmosphere. Um, and it's worked for us.
Okay. Well,
I think that's something that lots of churches have done. The meal on a Wednesday night,
right.
kind of eliminating any excuse people have not to come for a Wednesday night Bible class. But I've never personally been a part of a church where it has been geared so intentionally towards people that do not at present have right relationship with God through Jesus Christ.
Okay. So when you say you talk in and then you talk out, so what's in between on that Wednesday night? You do a lesson in the Gospels.
Yep.
So do you have moments, a set period of time to where people can go off in small groups?
We
Or-
don't.
Okay.
We have done some of that. I'm not doing that at present.
Okay.
Um, but we did some of that early on,
Uh-huh.
and for us, it just didn't make. I it was fine, but that very much is a conversation that I'm facilitating as
Right.
opposed to lecture I'm giving on Wednesday
Okay.
night.
Okay.
So it's very interactive,
Oh,
and
okay.
it's
Okay.
kind of me guiding one big conversation through the time
Okay.
that we spend together.
Okay. So what kind of obstacles or did you, well, yeah, what kind of obstacles did you have to overcome to get the fire really roaring in making disciples?
Yeah. One of the biggest obstacles for us is, and I assume for everybody, is that there are some who think they are beyond pure discipleship.
Right.
They don't need to hear those stories anymore. They know who Jesus is. They don't need to be reminded of that stuff. They think they have outgrown some of those fundamental teachings about Jesus. And we've actually had some people leave our church family
Oh, wow.
because of some of the lifestyles that were represented on Wednesday nights.
Okay. Okay.
For instance, um, we recently had a transgender individual
I heard
that was
about him.
coming on our Wednesday nights.
Yeah.
Um, he was nervous about coming, but we told him he was welcome there. Um, he started asking some good questions and making some good comments. And one of the most powerful moments I've ever been a part of, Gene, near the end of a Bible class one Wednesday night, he said, "I need to quit pretending I'm somebody that I'm not. I need to embrace who God created me to be."
Wow.
And sadly enough, one of the thoughts in my head was, those folks that left because of this individual,
Uh-huh.
they missed one of the most powerful moments I've ever witnessed,
Yeah. Yeah, really.
because they didn't have patience or compassion or evangelistic interest enough to hang on.
Right. Wow,
Yeah.
that is sad. Okay. So when let's see. You got the three questions that on this particular one. Kind of job do we do making disciples? Well, we're not really good at it.
Right.
Well, and I think would you agree it's just because we've forgot to look outwardly as what God has asked us to do?
Yeah. I think a big part of it, well, I know your job is intentionally geared to look inward, right?
Right.
But I think about this a lot. Um, I spend my time preparing Bible classes and Bible studies and sermons to preach to people that are saved and in right relationship with God. And I just don't know how many churches um, are willing or able to employ ministers that look outward intentionally and purposefully, with the idea that I'm going to reach people with the gospel that churches aren't typically reaching.
Right.
I don't think that happens very often
No, no.
because we are self-centered. We want our ministers to cater to and to minister to us.
Yeah, true.
And we don't always think about the world at large.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. So that's where we got to get better at is looking
Yeah.
outwardly. So, all right. I appreciate you taking this time with me. I think next week what we'll do is we're going to jump into the church as the womb next week. So thanks for joining with me, and it'll be on the podcast hopefully here in the next week. So
Great, man.
thanks.
Sounds good.
We'll talk to you later.
Okay. See
All
you.
right. Bye-bye.